Morning, everyone. My name is Dave Kellogg, and I'm here to start with you a little bit early, it sounds like, but we're happy to jump in here and talk about how to build marketing into a machine. So by background, as mentioned in the intro, my name is Dave Kellogg. I'm the author of Kellblog. I hope you said yes when they asked if you read it. I'm currently an EIR at Balderton Capital, and of relevance to this particular presentation, I was formerly a CMO for over 10 years at Business Objects as we grew from 30 million to a billion, at Versant from 0 to 15 million, and at Elation, which is a high growth enterprise SaaS startup, so on a gig basis. So I've done marketing a lot, and will give my perspective on how to make it into a machine. I think one of the key distinctions I want to make today is just the simple one between artisanal and industrial marketing. Which is, when marketing starts out, it is a craft, right? And I often say there's the art and science of marketing, and we kind of balance both as we build marketing. But today's presentation is really going to be about the science more than the art, kind of moving from an artisanal world where we kind of, baked bread one loaf at a time in a, fire oven, versus an industrial view where we're trying to, pump loaves of bread out of a machine. And that's the perspective that we're going to take today in this presentation. So when we think about what a machine is, look, if you ask most CEOs, if you ask most board members, they certainly appreciate marketing for its complexity, its nuance, its artisanal nature. But if you say, would you like marketing to be a machine? They'd say yes. And what do they mean when they say a machine? It's pretty simple, right? Money goes in and opportunities come out. And you might think, well, gosh, doesn't marketing do a lot more things than just make opportunities? Yes. Aren't there other groups that also make opportunities, sales or alliances or outbound BDRs? Yes. But when people say, I'd like a marketing machine, I believe we should just kind of accept what they're saying is, I want you to build something where I can put money in and get opportunities out. And yes, we care about high quality product marketing and sales enablement and branding and all those other things. But when we talk about marketing as a machine, this is what we mean. Money in, sales accepted opportunities come out. It's got predictable output. Given a certain amount of money in, a certain number of opties come out predictably, not only in terms of cost, but also in terms of time. Did it take 3 months to develop, 6 months to develop, et cetera? And lastly, in addition, in my background, I was also a CEO for 10 years. And I could say the CEO perspective on this, I want to be able to vary the input and say, hey, marketing, I've got 50 grand, go spend it productively. Or, hey, marketing, the pipeline's looking thin. How much money do you need? How much money can you absorb right now to make me more opportunities at cost X in time frame Y? And to me, that's the biggest part marketers mix. It's not just about getting the machine up and working. If you want to help me, the CEO, I need to be able to vary the input both directions, either when I'm flush with cash or I'm light on pipeline or I'm short on cash. So I need to have this variable input lever. And a lot of marketers are not good at absorbing that extra money and spending it productively. And sad as it is for all of us who are marketers on the inside, nobody actually really cares how it works. They just want to see money go in and opportunities come out. From a budget perspective, it looks like this. So here's a little spreadsheet I made, kind of a simplified marketing budget. And first, it's got a taxonomy of marketing spend, which I like. People, corporate programs, and demand gen programs. Because I think those are really the three different types of marketing expense. We spend money on people. We spend money on corporate things like, say, market research, or some companies like to do a big user conference that really has no lead generation value, or they do branding, or they do corporate PR. These programs, we do them, but not because we want opportunities coming out from them directly. And then we have demand gen programs where we very much do want opportunities stemming from them. And I've always thought that the best marketing budget lines right up side by side. Here's the money I'm going to spend. Here's what goes in. And here's the opportunities that are going to come out. And this is an integrated opportunity budget with the financial budget. In this particular case, the boss likes a big user conference. It costs $850,000, but it's not supposed to generate opportunities. So we put it as a corporate program. We show a cost per opportunity. And by the way, down here, you'll see I do both an average and an incremental cost per opportunity. This is so important because many people would say, wait a minute, Dave, your cost per opportunity of 3.3K is only the demand gen cost. That's only the incremental cost. And the answer is you're right. But isn't that the question you most want to know? If I need 10 more opportunities, how much do I need to spend? Answer, $33,000. Not answer $68,000, which is the average cost blending all of marketing across all three types of marketing spend. So a super important distinction. And I think, look, if you want to know your marketing efficiency, go look at your CAC ratio, right? If you want to know your cost per opportunity, it should really be an incremental demand gen cost, because the question people want to ask is, if I gave you $50,000, how many more opties could you get? And that's an incremental cost. The other thing about this program is you can see it's roughly half demand gen, which optically most non-marketers appreciate. Most other people kind of worry that we spend too much money hiring people or too much money on branding and maybe not enough on generating opportunities. Now, the crazy thing about cost per opportunity is, we have to calculate it. If we think we can not calculate that, we're wrong. It will get us in trouble with the organization. But we all know buyer reality is anything but linear. I built a beautiful linear model on the prior slide, but reality is on the right of this slide, right? There's 15 people involved over 8 quarters with multiple touches. Some people go to a webinar. Somebody hears word of mouth, right? There's all kinds of chaos happening in the enterprise software B2B buying journey. And we've built this highly simplistic model, right? Now, I have a couple of suggestions in terms of how to bridge this gap. One is to use market research, which is, I think you need the model, but you also need to remind yourself that reality looks nothing like the model. So let's do win-loss analysis at every quarterly business review. Let's do win-touch analysis. Let's take our top 3 deals and look at how many touches across how many people, across how much time they involve. Then let's calculate demand gen and total marketing cost as per the prior slide. How much does it cost me to buy 10 more? And then finally, beware of what I call retinal imprint, which is, be careful of what numbers you put up in front of your CEO. This is actually a true story. But one time, a marketer, well-intentioned, put up a slide that basically said trade show opportunities cost $25,000 each. And in my mind, that slide at that moment burned into the retina of the CEO. And literally, like quarters later, why are we still doing trade shows? Those opportunities cost $25,000. So beware what I call retinal imprint. Like whenever you're going to put numbers up in front of a CEO or a board, some of those numbers are going to burn in. And when they burn in, I mean, this company may as well have just shut down their trade show program, right? Because once you have retinal burn in, any kind of rational conversation can't be had any longer, right? We can't talk about attribution, which is the Achilles heel of most of this cost per opportunity analysis, right? We can't talk about the quality of opportunities generated. We can't talk about existing pipeline accelerated. Once that 25K is burned on the retina of the CEO, it's hard to have any of those conversations. So the moral is be careful what you put up. And second, if you're going to put disclaimers, like here's how we do attribution, first touch or last touch, and this favors this category of program and disfavors this category, put those disclaimers up before you show the numbers, because I think these numbers can ironically become kind of an emotional issue. The other nice thing about the marketing machine is that it's linked to sales. So when we built that marketing budget, we kind of tied together opportunities and cost per opportunity to demand gen spend. That was step 1. Now here's step 2. Let's link our opportunity generation plans to the sales model. So here's another simple spreadsheet I whipped up. And you can see I've built a sales ramp over here in the left column of how fast people become productive. I built a hiring plan across that first row, which is actually a super aggressive hiring plan. And then I do kind of, let's say, standard math to multiply the number of people by their tenure, by the productivity, to get basically a ramped, well, without the productivity, a ramped rep equivalence. So in Q1, we have 21 reps on board, but their productivity is equivalent to 11.5, right? When you multiply the number of reps times their productivity figure, and that's super important because when the board starts to analyze your sales, they're should I think we have 21 reps or should I think we have 11? And the answer is, for all practical purposes, you've got the productivity equivalent of 11 ramped reps. So we take that notion of ramped reps, we multiply it by productivity, get a quota capacity, we shave off 20% to get kind of a plan, we carve out expansion, and we get a number like 2208 for Q1 next new logo ARR. We say our ASP wants to be 60K next year, up from 50 last year. That means we need 36 deals to close in that quarter, which means 3 quarters earlier, we need 245 sales accepted opportunities, which means 1 quarter earlier, given our historical rates, we need 3,700 MQLs, right? So in my mind, this model should exist at your company. If it doesn't, it's a problem, because otherwise sales has one model, marketing has another model. They're constantly out of sync. And there's kind of age-old questions like, do you model attrition? I did, yes. Do you model the phase shift? How much time do you allot, et cetera? And in a perfect world, if marketing is going to be a machine, it's going to be a machine that is tied to the sales machine. And that's how you do it. And yes, by the way, I know that reality is way more complex and not linear, right? Like we aren't selling toothbrushes here. I know there are 17 contacts involved across 8 quarters and 43 touches. I know at your company, maybe you track account qualified leads because you're into ABM, or product qualified leads because you're into product-led growth instead of marketing qualified leads. Got it? I know that corporate marketing programs like PR can also generate leads. People read an article and go to the website. Model misses that, right? And the short answer is yes, I understand this model is super limited for all the reasons we've discussed. And whenever you think about that, think about this quote, which is, all models are wrong, but some are useful. And that's the way I think about that sales capacity model. It's wrong, but useful. That's the way I think about that basically inverted marketing funnel model. It's wrong, but useful. And that's the way I think about that budget. So this is just one of the things we're going to have to deal with. But the answer is not to not build those models. The answer is not to say, the cost per MQL is incalculable. It's unknowable. Let's go take an epistemology class, right? That's not the answer. The answer is we need to build these models, but then understand their limitations. So, and by the way, a funnel is not even the best metaphor for all this, as long as we want to get, critical. And there are other pipe gen sources, as mentioned, besides marketing, right? In fact, I think marketing is more of a popcorn machine than actually a funnel, right? Like it's kind of a layered popcorn machine where we put people in and we expose them to heat, and some pop to the next layer, and the other ones pop to the next layer. Now, cool metaphor, a lot of fun, but I suggest we keep all the CMOs out there employed, and rather than talk to our bosses about popcorn machines, we go back to the basic funnel of awareness. Have you heard of us? Consideration. Have you thought about buying us? Trial. Have you tried buying us? And purchase. Have you actually bought us? And by the way, that's a generic funnel of kind of how the buyer thinks about a purchase. Inside an organization, we actually should have 4 funnels depending on your size, but marketing and most companies generate, I've seen anywhere between 50 and 95% of the leads come from inbound marketing. Companies with target account strategies often have a big SDR outbound component. This is where you want to kind of stalk your customers. They may generate 10 or 20% of the pipeline. Alliances, in my mind, can generate 10 to 30% of the pipeline. And sales outbound can generate also 10 to 20% of the pipeline. And deciding who's accountable for generating how many opportunities is all part of building a marketing machine, right? We need to build our machine. We talked about that in the prior 2 slides. And we need to understand how our machine fits in with the other opportunity generating sources, because we're really just one of 4 when it comes to building pipeline, which is the point of our marketing machine. So we've talked about a number of principles in our marketing machine right now. Just mute that. The first is it turns money into sales accepted opportunities. It does so at a predictable cost and time frame. It's hard linked to the sales model. We can vary the input. The CEO can show up and say, I need more pipe. Here's 50K, spend it productively. And you know how to do that. Nobody else cares how it works on the inside, so let's not bore them at quarterly business reviews. And let's not forget that our machine is part of a bigger overall opportunity generation machine. Now, 3 things we haven't talked about yet that I'll quickly cover. 1, this machine makes byproducts. 2, the pieces should all work together. And 3, we should build our machine in layers. Let's hit each of those points. So first, this machine produces byproducts. So it's important that we don't keep, say, our communications people too far away from our demand gen people, because when I'm out running marketing programs, I am, whether they be, search advertising phrases or whether they be direct mail to support a webinar, I am sending messages to the market, right? Demand gen doesn't just generate demand. It also, as a byproduct, generates awareness. People have heard of the company. Positioning. Demand gen often positions the company. And reputation. Do we have kind of a high quality or high class demand gen machine, or kind of a not so high class one? That will affect the reputation of the company. Is the perception of our landing pages even. So the first thing we need to understand is that while we're running this marketing machine to build opportunities, it is generating byproducts, and therefore we can't be too siloed. We can't say, oh, the communications people do PR and branding, but they're totally separate from the demand gen people who generate opportunities. At one company I worked at, we had the corporate communication person write most of the content for the demand generation machine. Why? Because it kept our messaging consistent between kind of corporate communications and demand generation. And that's powerful. And speaking of this power, we get this kind of extra power by having the pieces of the machine work together, right? If each piece of the marketing machine works in isolation, it's not as powerful as a marketing machine that works together. And the problem is, this might be a $30 to $50 million SaaS company. Call it a $50 million SaaS company, abstract marketing org chart, a high growth one. So it's got a pretty big marketing team for 50 million, but it might look something like this. And we're going to have 4 directors or 4 VPs running the 4 disciplines. And if those people are not working together, if product marketing is completely separate from demand gen, if demand gen is separate from comms, then what we're posting on the blog isn't supporting what we're seeing in the demand gen programs, which isn't consistent with the content product marketing is putting into white papers. So to me, unless we want to have what's often called random acts of marketing done by each of these silos, it's super important that we kind of overcome the org chart, because the org chart kind of drives us in this siloed direction, and we need to overcome that. And the way we overcome that is in our marketing machine to run integrated campaigns that we commit as a team, that head of marketing and the 4 functional leaders say we're going to commit to integrated campaign planning, regardless of who works for whom. On the org chart, we're going to build a bunch of marketing programs that are integrated, that it looks like it was produced by one marketing team, not 4 marketing teams. And that's where we get kind of a turbocharger on our marketing. And the last thing I'll say about the marketing machine is, if you think of marketing as a machine, think of it as something that kind of runs forever. Like, we turn machines on and we don't turn them off in general, unless they're broken or unless we need to change them. And I'm amazed how many marketing people don't actually think about marketing that way. That for example, at one company where I ran marketing, we started a weekly demo and we never stopped it. 4 years later, we were running the weekly demo. It became, in fact, kind of a core indicator program. And people were like, why don't you replace it with a video? Why don't you pretend to do it live, but actually have it pre-recorded? And the answer was, it takes 45 minutes a week. It's a good training mechanism to train people on how to do our messaging. The live interaction and Q&A is important. The live chat is important. We can afford to do this. And by the way, it's substituting for what would have been 20 to 30 custom demos done by sales. So we've already captured a huge economy of scale by doing it once. We're controlling the quality of the content. Why would I ever stop that? And in fact, it can become an indicator for pipeline. I can just look at weekly demo attendance fluctuating over time and know whether or not I have a marketing problem. So I always view marketing as a machine that's built in layers. And I assume that when I start stuff, I don't stop it unless there's good reason. And it's not, because I think a lot of marketers get focused on like, let's do marketing this quarter. And look, there should be at the top layer quarterly/thematic campaigns, but that's not all we do. They're built on top of this kind of always on machine that once we know how to do something, we just keep repeating it. And we try to turn the dial on scale economy. Yes, you could pre-record that demo. Yes, you could make a 2-minute version of that demo and put it up on YouTube, which you probably should. But in my opinion, you should also have the 45-minute version for the person who's super interested, who will show up with 20 other people and want to ask you questions and talk about your demo. Search, most of the search engine optimization, search engine marketing programs are kind of always on digital programs. Then we have our core content. Again, also with content, I think we think content has a lifetime, but like our seminal white paper that tells our story should, in my mind, last forever, right? It should last until we change our story. And then we should do core periodic events on top of that, then quarterly thematic campaigns. Yes, we do have a theme of the quarter. And then on top of that, we should always be experimenting. And that's how we kind of build marketing, not just into a machine, but in this layered machine. Because the thing I think is most important, and this is my last slide, is a lot of marketers, this is a quote, that's David Ogilvy, the founder of Ogilvy and Mather, a huge advertising agency, a guru of the madman era of marketing. And he was a prolific writer and very pithy quoter. And one of the things he always said is, you aren't advertising or marketing to a standing army. You're advertising to a moving parade, right? We should think of our marketing as a billboard, and the audience is walking by our billboard. Because a lot of marketers would act as if the audience is not moving. It's just the same people standing there. So every week we need to change the billboard. And that's the wrong paradigm. The right paradigm is the billboard stays the same, because if that message is working, we want to deliver a consistency, and the audience is walking by our billboard. And if you take that frame of reference, I think it'll help you build the right marketing machine. So just to summarize things here, I'm trying to keep an eye on the time. What is a marketing machine? It's something that turns money into opties. It does so at predictable cost and time. It's hard linked to sales. It's variable speed. Nobody cares how it works, so we don't need to tell them all about the wonderful things we do inside the department. They just care about what comes out. And we are part of a bigger opportunity generation machine on behalf of the company. The three other points about a marketing machine is it does produce byproducts, what we should be mindful of. The pieces should work together to get that kind of turbo boost, and we should build this machine in layers. So in effect, once we start doing something, we can just keep doing it, and that becomes a steady source of leads, and then we layer new source of leads or opportunities on top. So that's the formal part of the presentation. If you are interested in the stuff I said or my way of thinking about marketing, I've included a bunch of links here on a reference slide. Several of those are podcasts, some of those are blogs. So I'd like to thank you for joining, and it was great having you.
Thanks so much, Dave. Really appreciate you stepping in there. That was very helpful, but not only that, amazing presentation. Great to have you on the SaaStock stage for the first time, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
Super. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Thanks, Dave.